you for today's session. That is the second day. Yesterday, definitely you have learned a lot of things from our expert Sagar Shinde sir. So today we are planning for the next part of our IBM skill-based training program. So Python programming fundamentals. The Python is the very most important language of today's technologies. So everyone know today we have to learn the Python in each industry application. The Python is the very most important. So I request to our today's expert Sagar Shinde sir. Sir, please give the guidance of our students, and very warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of our Samarth Polytechnic and all of you. So welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now
Thank
please
you.
start the session.
Yeah, sure, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. So very good morning to all of you. Let's quickly get started with our topic for today. And as I've discussed about the flow yesterday, we are going to talk about today some syntax as well as programming fundamentals into Python. So yesterday we tried to see how we can work on the basics of Python, right? But today our approach will be to look at how we can tweak Python, right? To get a certain logic running for us, right? Certain syntax running for us, right? So that we'll try to understand today. Like for example, we will go for conditional statements over there, right? We'll try to create some few very small utilities with that particular conditional statement. Then we will go for loops. Okay, so we will be looking at for loop and while loop. Again, for that also we'll try to create some simple applications, so that will give much better understanding about how we can utilize loops into programming. Then we will go for the concepts of functions, right? We'll try to see what is a function, why it is being so popular in any programming language, how we can create it into Python, and that is also we are trying to see through very simple application over there, like small utility over there. And towards the end of it, we are going to look at advanced kind of topic into Python, that is classes, right? So we will see how to create a class, how to utilize the different methods of a class, how to create them and how to utilize them. Again, that is also with the help of a very small application over there, right? So definitely this session would give you different approach towards programming. Rather than just doing a program for a particular problem, you can look at it as an application development platform, right? So that is what is my attempt over here. Okay, so let's get quickly started with our first thing, that is conditional statements. Before that, I would like you people to just go for your Google and search for Google Colab, right? Launch a fresh notebook. You have seen yesterday how to utilize it, right? Launch a fresh notebook over there, and then give a particular name to it, like for example, Python programming fundamentals. Anyways, I'm going to share this notebook with you people after this session, but it is always a good thing that if you do the things along with me, code along with me, that will be beneficial, right? Okay, so go for it, give it a name, proper name, whatever you feel, and then connect your environment. Okay, so it will initialize hardware and memory for you. Okay, and then first of all, add a text cell and put into the heading, that is conditional statements. Okay, because we are going to talk about conditional statements first. Okay, yes, so the first conditional statement one can look for is the if and else statement, right? If else elif basically, right? So here you need to understand first of all the basic logic It's not only about Python, it's in general, right? So whenever we say if, else, and elif, basically, right, these statements will get executed. The code under these statements will get executed based on some condition, right? So for example, if you want to decide, right, if you are going outside and you want to decide whether you have to take raincoat with you, or umbrella with you or not, right? In that condition, what you will do, you will think like this, right? If it is going to rain, if I feel that it is going to rain, I will take raincoat or umbrella with me, else I will not, right? That is what is going to happen, correct? When we think about something, right, that depends on a condition, correct? So here also in programming we can utilize that flow. So we can utilize if statement. Okay, we can set a condition in front of that if statement. If that if condition works, okay, it is true basically, right? Then whatever the code below that if statement is given, it will get executed. If it does not turn true, okay, then the else part gets executed. Okay, that is how simple it is, if and else, right? That particular conditional statement it is. You can add more conditions. Okay, so rather than just running with one condition, if condition, you can run with multiple conditions one after the other. So you can have if statement, there is one condition with that condition one. If it is going to be true, that's okay, whatever the code part after that, if statement will get executed. If that condition is not true, so rather than running directly to the else part of your programming, you can add one more condition in path. That can be done with the help of elif. That can be done with the help of elif. So again, that condition with the elif will be checked. If it is true, then that part will get executed. Otherwise, it will go for the else part. That's how you can control multiple conditions. You can run on multiple conditions also, right? So here, for making things interesting, I have given a kind of application, short application over here, that is to check eligibility for voting. Okay, so someone who is there coming for voting, for example, or trying to do voting, right? For that, we are asking the age from the person, right? So if the age of the person is, that particular thing, right? If it is less than 18, then that person is not eligible for voting. If it is more than 18, right, then definitely that person is eligible for voting. We are adding, however, one more condition over here, that by chance, if anyone gives a very high value for age, right, like for example more than 120 basically, right, so it is not possible, correct? It is not a legit value for age basically of a person. So if that is going to happen, we will say that please check the age entered by you, right, in that case. Okay, so for that we are using if, elif, and else, right? So first of all, what is necessary? You need to take the input from the user. Okay, and how you will be able to do that? That is with the help of input function. That is with the help of input function. So you can utilize input function, into the parenthesis of which you can write a message which will be displayed on the for the user, right? And so that the user will get the idea what needs to be done, correct? So this message will be displayed: please enter your age to check eligibility for voting, right? Then the user will enter something, correct? And that thing will be stored into a variable age. Okay, but one thing is there, that by default, if whatever you enter over here into input will be considered as a string, it will get considered as a string, right? But we know age needs to be into a number, like basically integer, correct? So for that, we are converting that thing into an integer. Okay, so this is a type conversion, right? We have seen that yesterday, right? So that's how we are creating our age variable. Then we are starting with our conditional statement, that is if else. So we say if statement, then we put a condition in front of it, that is age less than 18. So if this condition is true, then whatever is below that, into that particular if statement, after the colon, you have to put indentation. Okay, and that is basically is considered as a block of code for this if statement, right? So this block of code will get executed if this condition is true. Okay, so if age less than 18, you are not eligible for voting. We go for second condition. If this does not turn true, right, then it will go for the second condition, elif. And into elif, we can give another condition like age, sorry for that, age greater than 120, right? So this is not an eligible kind of age, right? This is not legit. So if this is true, right, then again with colon and then indentation, that is block of code, we say that please check age entered. Please check what age you have entered, because we feel that, it is not a valid age, right? Then if this is also not true, right, then we say else statement. So else is basically that is going to execute if none of these conditions turn true, right? That is what is else. So else we say that print you are eligible for voting, right? That is how it is going to work into conditional statements, right? So let's try to run this. It will ask me for age for voting. So let me try something which is above 120, let's say 125. It will tell me, please check age entered. Let me try something which is below 18, let's say 16. They are not voting, right? And let me try something which is a legit age for voting, right? I think it is frozen. Sorry for that. Yeah. So something like, for example, 25. Okay, you are eligible for voting, right? So this is a very simple application with the help of conditional statements. Now you can do it a bit interesting, right? Correct. So what you can do about it is you can change this program and get the input from the user. Okay. But do not convert it into numeric directly. Don't do that. So what you can do for that, you take the input from the user, you check whether that is numeric or not. Okay, into Python, you can do that. Like there is a function for that. So try to find out that function and try to figure out whatever is being entered by the user, is it numeric or not. By default, it will be non-numeric because that is the input function. And then try to convert it into numeric and then pass it to the rest of the functionality. Okay, so try to pick with this program in that manner. So that I have given over here. So this you can try out later, right? To make things a bit interesting. Okay, so this is conditional statements. I will wait here for a moment so you guys can, have a look onto that or try it out. Okay, let's now go for loops. So let's get the generalized idea of loops. What are the loops basically? So whenever we say loops, basically, right, it is the idea where you have to where you want to run a particular block of code again and again, right? According to some condition, you want to execute that block of code again and again. That is what is loop, right? So how you can do that? Like there are two kind of strategies which you can apply over there. You can do this till there are objects, there are elements present inside a particular data structure or object. Okay, so let's say you have 20 elements into one data structure or object. Till you apply your process on all these 20 elements, basically, right, you will be doing that particular loop, right? That is one strategy you can go for. The other strategy you can go for, you can set a condition. Okay, um, some, some condition like we have seen earlier, that if age is less than 18 or age is greater than 18, something like that, right? So a boolean condition you can say like that, right? So yes, you set a condition, and till that condition is true, okay, you execute whatever the block of code is present over there inside that loop. Okay, once that condition turns false, right, you will break that loop, you will come out of that loop. This is another strategy, right? So for the first strategy, where we were thinking about running through all the elements of a particular object, there we can apply for loop, because it helps you in iterating over a particular object, right? So when we say iterating, basically it goes through all the elements of that object, right, one by one. Okay, so that is what is for loop. So first of all, we will see for loop. So for that, again, to make things a bit interesting, I have created a dictionary of some students data, for example, right, record of students. So I given it a name, that is attendance, right? And I have created that into in this form. So there is a key which is the name of the students, for example, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, right? In that manner. So let's say these are the name of the students, and these are the values for those keys, right? So the first, it's a list basically of values. So first value, first element of that value is one. That is basically the roll number of that student, right? Then the division of that student, and then the standard in which that particular student is studying as of now, right? So that is what is the detail we have for a particular student, and then for the next student, and then for the next student, and so on, right? So 4 students data we have over here into our dictionary. Now what I want to print out these details to the output from this dictionary, and for that I want to utilize for loop. I want to iterate over this object, and I want to print the details accordingly for a particular student. Okay, so for that, what you can do, you can say for statement, then a dummy iterator. This is the thing which is going to take values of different what do you say, elements of this particular object, right? So for stud in attendance dot keys, so this is how you can fetch out the values out of a dictionary. So for that, you can't utilize the index numbers, right? Into dictionaries, you can't utilize the index numbers because it is not ordered, right? So as it is unordered, basically, so for that purpose, you have to utilize your keys to get the values, right? So that is how it is, attendance dot keys. So it's a method which is applied on a dictionary, which will give out you the values of that dictionary, right? So for student, that is your dummy variable in attendance dot keys. First of all, again, you have to put what do you say, colon, and then you have to put your code over there after the indentation, right? That is how you have to go for. So the first thing which I want to go for is print name of the student. Okay, so this is also one of the ways you can print the things. So here I'm printing a string, and then I'm printing a variable value. You can divide these two things with a comma. So what will happen, this will be printed. Okay, this string will be printed, and then the value of this particular variable will be printed, right? This is how it is going to happen. So I'm going to go for the name of the student. So what will be the name of the student? It will be the value which is there as of now into stud. Okay, then I will go for roll number of the student, but it is not that straightforward to print the roll number of the student. So for that, what I have to do, I have to go to the particular key, and I have to fetch out the first element of its list. because the roll number is stored as the first element of a list, right? So we have to give the index number. Okay, this is what is called as subsetting or accessing the values with the help of indexes. So this is about roll number. For division, you have to go for the second element of the list, right? So this is your second element of the list. So what is the index number over here? It is 1, right? So you have to go for the key, specific key, and out of that you have to subset the second element of it or the first index of it. And in the similar manner, you have to go for standard of the in which the particular student is studying. Again, you have to go for the specific key and the third element of it or the second index of it, right? And then for putting the space in between the two prints, two students data, I'm purposely putting escape character, escape sequence, that is slash in over there for the new line. This is for the new line basically, right? So if I go for this, you'll find all the students data gets printed one after the other. Right? So this is how it iterated over that object and it gave me whatever I required from it. And I don't have to tell, start from this and end at this. So whatever will be the number of elements will be there, right, into that particular object. For that, this for loop will execute whatever the code is given inside it. Right? So again, there is one thing which I want you people to do with this. So you have to try to add the functionality to add student names. Okay. Add into this particular dictionary, right? Whatever we had, add to it and check the data about a particular student. If we just give the name of that student. Okay. So here we have printed for all of them, correct? Into this program, we tried to print it for all of them. But what I want, you have to add a functionality which will be able to add the data for a particular student, as well as it will be able to give you out the details about only a single student if you just give the name of it, right? So try to go for it, try to figure out whether you can do it or not. Afterwards, again, at this point, you can just try to replicate the program which is given over here into your notebook, and then later on you can just try to go for more functionality over there. Okay, so here I will wait for a moment. Okay, so let's go for the next thing, that is while loop. Now for this, I tried to create a very simple application that is of a stopwatch, right? So what you can do over here into while loop is you can create a condition, and till that condition is true for you, right? You can execute whatever the code is there inside that while loop. And you need to make sure, however, over here that at some point of time, that condition on which the while loop is running will become false. If it does not happen, right, then your while loop will be running forever. It will be an infinity loop because your condition is true. So while loop is going to run, correct? That is how it works basically. So you have to, take caution that uh, uh, you will run the while loop, but while running it, right, you have to set a condition which will eventually make your while loop condition false. Okay, that we need to maintain. So for this small application, I require a module in the name of time, right? So I've imported it. So you can import modules like that from Python inbuilt repositories. So I've imported it, and then I'm taking the input from the user because we have to create a stopwatch, right? So it should be according to the wish of the user, right? So I'm taking the time from the user in the input form, like I'm printing to the terminal or the output for the user's attention, that enter the time for stopwatch in seconds, right? I want to have that into seconds. Guys, I'm getting some background noise from you. I'm not sure who is on mute. Can you mute yourself? Okay, that's great. Yes. So we are taking the time from the user, and that is to in seconds, right? And as I told you, this will be a string, right? So we can't utilize it for some comparison directly, right? So for that, we are converting it into integer, right? And then I'm storing it inside that variable target time. Right? This is how I'm going to take the input from the user about the target time. Then I'm setting one variable t equals to 1. Why is it so? I will tell you later. But as of now, we have given some variable t equals to 1 value. And then that variable t, I'm utilizing into while loop condition. So if that t is less than my target time, then colon, right? And then after indentation, my block of code for while loop. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to print t. Okay. Every time this while loop runs, I'm going to print t. I don't want it to get printed, just like that in a flash of a second, because, this is a process, right? So the processor will execute it as it is. But I want to have it a feeling of a stopwatch, basically, right? So there I want to add some delay into the process, right? While printing, I want to have a delay into the process. So that's why I'm utilizing this time module, which I have imported, and I'm using another method out of it, that is slip. Okay, and into that method, this is method or function, you can say, in which you can tell how many number of seconds you want to delay the process, right? So I have given 1 as my argument, that I want to have a delay of 1 second after printing t once, right? That's how. And then I'm incrementing t with 1. Okay, why I'm doing so? Because if I don't do so, if I don't have this, t will always remain less than target time. Correct? That is going to happen, right? If I don't increment t, t will be always less than target time. And according to the functioning of while loop, this will be an infinity loop. It will never stop, right? So to make it over somewhere, in the time, or to make it, what do you say, finished, right? Terminate this particular loop somewhere in the time, we have to increment this t. So eventually this t will become equal to target time, right? And when that particular thing happens, this condition is false, and as it is false, while loop will break, right? And then once it breaks, we will go for the next execution, right? Next line in the code, that is, your time is up. Printing your time is up. This is outside the loop, right? Okay, so this is how it is going to work into the while loop, a very small utility, I will say. So let me enter some seconds. So let me enter 10 seconds for just, execution part of it. So it will go from 1 to 9 basically, right? So 1 to 9, and then at the 10th second, it says that, your time is up. Okay, so it's a stopwatch, right? But I again want you people to make it interesting, right? So how to make it exciting, more exciting? you can do one thing. Rather than printing it from the lowest value to the highest value, right? Or printing it from 1 to your target time, I want you to do it in a reverse fashion. So I want you people to reduce the timing, right? It will be more exciting, right, to look at. So now you have 5 seconds, you have now 4 seconds, you have now 3 seconds, you have now 2 seconds, and now you have 1 second, your time is over, right? In that manner, so that will become more exciting, correct? So I want you to transform this program into that, correct? So there will be just one small change which you have to do, and it will work like that afterwards, right? So try out this program as of now, and then later on, when you will get time, try to do it according to what I told you. So I mentioned that just below this as a comment, so you people can refer to it for modification. So that, yes, I've given that, right, as a comment, so you can refer to that afterwards and you can try it out. So I'll wait here for a moment. Okay, so let's go for the next functions, right? So let's try to get idea about, first of all, why we require functions, because that is very important, right? So whenever we say functions, right, when we say that we defined a function, we have defined it for the purpose of reducing the code in our program, right? So how it will help us in reducing the code? So when you define a function, let's say you included 10 lines of codes into that particular function, right? So once you define it, what you can do, you can just after that, you can just utilize the name of the function to utilize all those 10 lines of code. You don't have to write those 10 lines of code again and again. That is not required. You can just call that name of the function, and everything whatever was defined into it will get executed for you, right? That is how useful it is to utilize functions, right? So into a generalized fashion, you will see the function in the same file, but into more practical situations, you will find that functions are defined into some other file, and those file will get imported by you into one main file, and there you will utilize those functions. So to reduce the length of the main file, the main code basically which you execute, which you want people to look at, there you just import the things which are defined into other files, and then you do execute them, right? You don't write the code over there because it will be very messy, and no one will understand what is happening, right? So that is what is a practical approach people follow. But as of now, if you have started just with Python, it is a good idea to include your functions into the same file and then utilize them by calling them, right, over there only, right? So I'm going to show you a very small application over here which I tried to create a replica of the Arogya Setu app, which you must have seen. So here I'm asking a couple of questions to the user of this particular utility, and upon their responses, we are giving them uh, the output message as either they need to get themselves tested for COVID, or they are normal and they need to follow anyways they need to follow the what do you say, guidelines for prevention guidelines for COVID, right? So either of the two things we are doing on the basis of the responses by the users, right? So for that, first of all, we are printing to the output for the understanding of the users. Please answer the following questions in yes or no, right? Then we are asking the first question to the user that do you have any fever? And we are getting its in answer in the form of the input function, right? And we are storing it inside the variable fever. Okay, so either the user have to go for yes or no in that manner. So it will be a string, and we don't have any problem with that, right? So we can compare strings over here. That's why. So fever, we take the first argument as. Then the second argument we take, or the variable we take, is about the body pain or joint pain or headache. So for that, we ask the question to the user that do you have body or joint pain or headache, right? And whatever the answer is given by the user, we store it inside the another variable, that is body pain. Okay. Then the third question which we ask to the user is about the cold or cough or congestion into the chest and all that, right? So we ask that. Sorry for that, I guess something is slowing me down. Just a second, I will share it again. Just give me a moment. Okay. So the third question which we are asking the user is about any cold or cough or any congestion in the chest and all that, right? So we are storing that result in the cold cough variable. Okay, so these three variables we are getting, and what we are planning to do, if any of these, if any of three is yes, okay, is equal to yes, right, then definitely this is a sign of COVID, an indication of COVID, right? So we'll ask that particular user to get himself or herself checked, right? Get tested basically, right? So for that we are creating a function. We are not running directly with the logic, we are creating a function for that. So what we will do with that function, how to define that function, is with the def keyword, def, and then the name of the function. So let's say the name of the function is Arogya Setu, right? Then the parenthesis, and into the parenthesis, you need to tell how many number of arguments, or what arguments you require over here. So I require 3 arguments over here. So I've given dummy names to it, A, B, and C, right? So you can define your arguments with commas. Tell your arguments after one after the other with commas, right? And then you are putting a colon. Okay, there from that point the body of your function starts, right? So you put an indentation after that, right, on the next line, and whatever is there inside the indentation after that is the body of your function. Okay, so here we start with our logic. We say that if either A or B or C is equal to yes, like means any of these is equal to yes, or works for that, right? Or is basically utilized for if any of these conditions is true, the output is true in that manner, right? So that is what is or over here. So if this is the case, if any of these is true or yes basically, right, then again we have given the colon, and then after indentation, this is the code which will execute if this if condition is true, right? So we'll print that, get yourself tested for COVID. If this is not true, if this if condition is not true, then else part will get executed, where we say that, where we print that you are normal, please follow COVID prevention guidelines. Okay, so whenever this function will get executed, it will require you to tell these three arguments. It will require you to substitute or give these three arguments. Okay, so what will be these three arguments for us? It will be fever, body pain, and cold cough. Right? So this is just the definition of the function, right? Try to understand. This is just the definition of the function. It will not work if you just define it. Okay, you have to call it also for execution. So let me first of all just suppress this thing, which is actually the calling of the function, and let me run it as it is, right? Like this. So it will ask me some questions. Do you have fever? I will say yes. Okay. It will go for the next question. Even I still know it is going to work for me because I have said yes to one of the questions. But you see, there is no output. Because this is where we have just defined the function. We are not calling that function, right? We are not using that function. So for that, we have to call the function, right? To use the function, we have to call the function. So this is how you can call a function. You can take the name of the function, right? And then you have to provide into the parenthesis whatever will be the required number of parameters. So it requires 3 parameters. That's why I'm passing fever, body pain, and cold cough into it as a parameter. So if I now go for this, it will again run. It will ask me those questions. Let me give the same answers to it. Right? So it gave me, right? Get yourself tested for the COVID, right? This time it works. This time the function runs basically, right? You can check out for all the conditions also. For example, all no conditions. No. No. And the last one is no. It goes for this part of it. Right? So this is how you can utilize your functions. Again, to make these things a little bit interesting, I give you another task over here below that. Ask one more question to the user. Okay, and that question should be about comorbidities. So you might have heard about this, right? So patients having comorbidities. So what is a comorbidity? It is a condition, health condition, which is there, like diabetes, heart disease, which is there with that particular person already, right? So those people have given more importance, or you can say priority, while getting vaccinations, right? Okay, because it is very important to and mostly they are elderly people, so it is very important to first of all pay attention to them, so no medical condition will arise from these kind of problems basically, right? So I want you people to add one more question over here and get the answer for it about the comorbidities. And if it is the case, right, I want you to print to the user that please get yourself vaccinated at the earliest. Okay, right? So you can try this out afterwards, but as of now, just focus on to this part where we have utilized where we have created a simple function and utilized it. I'll wait here for a moment so you guys can, try it out. Okay, so let's get ahead. There's a small concept which students have uh, they want some clarity on to is the concept of local and global scope or variable, right? So what is that? So it depends on how a variable is defined, right? So if you define a variable into outside, I should say, outside a particular function, right? It is not inside a particular function or something like that. It's defined like that only, right? Then it is said that it is present inside the global scope of the program, right? So for example, over here, a equals to 5. We have defined it like that, correct? Just like that. It is not present inside a function or something like that, right? So here it is said that it is already it is present into global space or global scope of the program, right? So what will happen with this is that this particular value of a can be utilized anywhere into this program after defining it. After this definition, it can be utilized anywhere, right? There is no restriction. However, for example, I define a function in the name, let's say, for example, scope, where I do change this, for now, for instance, don't pay attention to this global a. I change this value of a equals to 6. Okay, into the function, I change the value of a equals to 6. And at the same time, I print a also in that function. Okay, so now the confusion will appear. What will be the value of a which will get carried out, right? Because now in the above code line, we have seen that a equals to 5. Now here inside the function, we have seen a equals to 6. Now what will be the value which will be carried out, right? So here, to just have a look onto that, I'm running my function also, I'm calling my function also, and I'm printing a also separately. Okay, so let's try to execute this and let's see what happens. So now if you see, if you go for your function, it printed value of a as 6. That is what is defined inside that function, correct? But if you print a, it takes the value which was defined in outside the function in the global scope or space, right? It is 5. So this is what is the difference between the global scope and the local scope. So here, whatever is defined inside the function is actually a local scope or local space, and this variable is it is basically a local variable. However, this is your global scope or global space, and this variable is basically your global variable. Okay, right? This is what is the difference. So now, can we convert a local variable to a global variable? So yes, it can be done. Explicitly, you can mention a variable as global inside a function also, and it will it will get converted into a global variable. So for that, you can simply say global, whatever will be the name of that variable, and it will get converted into global variable. So global a, I have said over here, and then I've given some value to it. And then if you check this again, right, you will find both the values of a are equal to 6. Right? So this is what is the difference between a local and global scope or variable over there. It just someone asked me in past few sessions, right? So I thought of uh, giving you idea about that also. Right. So now our topic of discussion is classes, advanced kind of topic, because uh, mostly into production grade environment, or you can say real time applications, uh, people will ask you to create classes. They will not ask you to just create simple logic, programming logic and all that. They will be definitely interested into uh, asking you to create classes or functions, right? That is how they want it, because it can be utilized very easily. I told you about functions, right? You can just call the function and it will get executed. So likewise, you can create the classes and you can import them into another file, and then you can utilize them. That is how it works, right, into a project environment, right? So let's try to understand first of all that concept of class. So class is basically, you can say, a combination. It can be viewed as a combination of different functions, right? So what you can do with this class is that you can create an object out of that class. So just like what we have seen, a list basically, a string basically, right? uh, a dictionary basically, right? So all these are objects which we have created, right? So all these objects got created from something, and that something is basically a class, which gives it different properties. Okay, so for example, there was sequencing into list, right? There was sequence number into list, so it's a property of that particular object, right? You can include heterogeneous kind of data elements into the list, right? You can define them, right? So that's also one of the properties of that particular list. The different methods which you can apply onto a list, for example, you can replace a particular element out of it. You can on strings basically, you can make them uppercase, you can make them lowercase. uh, you can let's say, for example, mm, access a particular element out of it. So all these things, right, whatever the functionality you see with a particular data structure, which is basically an object of something, that something is a class basically, are coming from that class. So that all things, those methods are defined into that class. That's why we are able to utilize those methods onto the objects, right? So that is what is the idea of a class. So you define your class, right? You define different functions into that class, and then you create one object out of that class, and all the methods whichever you have defined, right, those methods can be applied onto that object. That is possible, right? That is how it is. So to give you a proper idea or practical idea of this, I have included one practical example over here. That is to create and manipulate employee database. Okay, so how to define a class? For that, you have to utilize a keyword class. Okay, then you have to give the name of the class, right? So always remember that it is a practice that you have to capitalize the first letter of the class name, right? It is recommended that way, right? Otherwise it will, in most of the cases it is getting confused with the functions, right? So don't do that. Try to capitalize the first letter of the class name, right? Then parenthesis, and then this is a mandatory thing, or you can say a standard thing, to include object, right? This particular name over there into the parenthesis of the class definition, right? So what is this object? Is basically, it is signifying, or it is indicating the object which will get created out of your class. Okay, it's just a what do you say, a representation of that, right? Then you put a colon. Okay, and after the colon, you have to go for indentation. What you have to do first into the class definition is you have to define a constructor method. What is a constructor method? Basically, the constructor method talks about defining the different parameters which will be utilized by different functions or different methods which are going to be defined by us, like later on, right? So all those parameters or those arguments we have to initialize with the help of this constructor method. And how to define it? So again, for the definition of the method or the function, you have to open the keyword def, right? Then space, and the constructor method is with this dunder init dunder. So basically, dunder is double underscore, right? So this first part is double underscore init, that means initialization, right? And then again, dunder, that is double underscore, the parenthesis, right, of that method. And into it, what you have to define? You have to define the first parameter as self. You have to define the first parameter as self. So what is going to happen with this? Why we have to define self as the first parameter? Because it is going to help you to create other parameters into the class, or getting them connected to the different methods, right? So that's why this self is defined. How to do it, I will tell you about that particular thing afterwards, but understand that this will help you in creating other parameters, right? Then you define other parameters which you require into this particular what do you say, class, or different functions of it. So name I want over here, name of the employee, age of the employee, main skill of that employee, right? Experience of that employee, city to which that particular employee belong, right? I have defined few variables which I have defaulted. So what is defaulting is giving directly value to it. Like for for example, I equals to 1. This is defining, this is defaulting a variable or a parameter, right? Then I have created an empty dictionary also. So this is also defaulting, right? I have defaulted that variable name with a empty dictionary. So what you have to do basically is that you have to utilize all these parameters, right? All these parameters into different functions which will be defined inside this class. Okay. And for that, you have to make sure that from this constructor method, they will be connected with the other methods, right? That is how it will happen, right? So connection needs to be made from here to the other class, other methods, right? So for that, you have to define it with the help of self. Self dot name equals to name. Okay, so this will make sure that the name parameter is from the constructor method. Self dot age equals to age. Self dot skill equal to skill. Self dot experience equals to experience. Self dot ct equals to ct. Self dot I equals to I. Self dot emdict equals to emdict, right? So we have initialized our parameters in this way. This is your constructor method. Then your actual methods or function starts, whatever you want to define. Okay. So the first method which I want over here is will help me in getting the employee details, right? So user will enter all these employee details, right? So I go for definition def keyword, then I give the name to this method as get employee details. And here I don't need to pass all these parameters. I just have to pass self, right? So if I pass self, I can utilize any of this. That's how simple it is afterwards, right? So this is making connection with the help of self. So what I want, first of all, I want to get the name of the employee. So self.name equals to input function, because we want to get the input, right? And we want to ask for name. That's why name as a character or string into that input function, right? So name will be given, name will be taken from this, then, and it will be stored into this variable self.name, then age, then skill, then experience, then city, right? So all these things I'm taking. Rest of the two things I'm not taking, that is I and emdict, because these are defaulted by me already, right? So I don't have to take these values. I'm planning to utilize them somewhere else. I will show you where. Okay. So with this function, all these details will be included, right? We will get these employee details. And then I want to add these details which I got into a data structure. I want to create a data structure out of it. So for that, I have another method over here that I have defined, that is add employee details. Again, I have to utilize all the parameters. That's why I'm taking self as my only parameter into this method. And then what I'm doing, the method, the parameter which I have defaulted, right, as an empty dictionary, that I'm using, and I'm creating keys with the help of the other parameter which I have defaulted, that is I. I've given it the value equals to 1, correct? So that I'm utilizing for creating keys, because into dictionaries, keys and value pairs are there. So whenever a new employee is getting added over here, it will get the key as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on, right? In that manner, it will become a sequence number also. It will become a, what do you say, a key also in a manner, right? So I've planned it that way. That's why I'm using these two defaulted parameters here. And then I'm passing them a list of all the other parameters which we took from the user. We inputted from the user, right? So I'm taking all of them in the form of a list. So this will be the value which will be allocated to a particular key I, right? So I will have to take different values. That also we have to incorporate. Right? We have to increment I, right? With the new what do you say, user information, right? So that I will do later on in this code. But as of now, this is what is happening, right? And then for just showing you out that what got added into that dictionary, I'm printing it. So this is what is the second function. Okay, then I'm creating an object out of this class employee. So let's say that object name is obj. I have called my class employee, and I need to pass it the required number of arguments. This is also very necessary. So what will be the required number of arguments? The required number of arguments will be those which are not defaulted. I will repeat it again. The required number of arguments will be those which are not defaulted by me, right? So the ones which are not defaulted by me are name, age, skill, experience, and city. Self we don't have to utilize because it is just for the connection of the constructor method with the other methods, correct? And the others, that is I and emdict, are defaulted. So I don't want to, I did need not to include them while calling my class, right? So these are the only ones which I have to include over there. So I have included them, like for example, Saga 32, ML 7, and Pune, right? In that manner. So with this, I have created this object. Got this, right? So let me just create it, right? Okay. Okay, right? So with this, it got created, for example. Now, let me just utilize the first method which we have defined into that class, that is get employee details. And how one will be able to do that? Just run that method on this object, because this object is created out of that class, right? So whatever is defined inside that object, inside the class as a method or variable, you can run that with the help of this object. So you can say object dot get employee details. That is how you can call this particular method, right? So let me just go for it. Yes, so it will ask me for the first employee name. Let actually second in place. So let me go for something, some name XYZ. Okay, let me give the age as 30. Let me give the main skill as DL, for example. Let me give the experience in years as 6, for example. City, let's say, right? So with that, all these parameters got these values like XYZ, 30, DL, 6, got included. Now I have to run the other function, right? Add employee details. So I will run it on again object, right? Because that is the thing which is holding the instance of that class, right? So I am running it object dot add employee details, right? And once I do that, what will happen? All these parameters with their values will be creating a dictionary, and that dictionary will get printed. Okay, but along with that, what I have to do? I have to increment the key value, that is I, because when someone will enter next a detail, that person should get the key as 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it might be, right? So that should happen, correct? So that's why I'm incrementing object dot I with 1 at the same time. So if I do so, this will get printed. Correct? This is how it is happening. Now, whatever you enter, it will get, what do you say, added in the next thing. So now don't have to run this because object is already created. I can just go for this get employee details. I can go for this. Let me add that. Let me say Sagar. Let me say ML. Sorry for that. ML. Let me say 32. Let me say 7. Let me say got created. Let me add it. Yes. So now you can see that first entry was there. Now for us, second entry what got created, as well as value for I got incremented with 1. So now the index is 3. So key value is 3. Now whatever you will enter with this will get appended into this dictionary with key as 3, right? In that manner. Okay, so this was a small example for class, right? What I want you people, when you will go through it and afterwards, is that try to add functionalities for displaying the employee details. You know now how to do that, right? You can either iterate over or whatever logic you want to apply. So try to display those details, but for that you have to create a function, right? And then try to also add functionalities of removing or updating details of a particular employee. Okay, so this tweak I want you people to try out afterwards. Whenever you will get some free time, try to go for that. Okay, so I'll wait here for a moment. In the meantime, I hope you people are going through the courses which the links basically which I have provided to you people yesterday in the form of a notebook, because those are just 15 to 20 minutes or maximum 30 minutes courses, and 5 links are there only. So I hope you people are completing it, because that's very necessary, right? Try to go for them, and along with that try to go for any other courses also of your choice, right? Okay, all these things are free, and one needs to take advantage of this thing, right? That will be definitely benefiting you people for your CV or your profile over there for employability, or even if you want to start your own thing, right? But still you need some skills, right? Even if you don't you are not interested into, let's say for example, some certification or something like that, but still you need skills, right? You need to portray that in front of the other people, to connect with different people. And there definitely, if you have an open source kind of thing, a free kind of thing, to give you quality content and learn about the things, definitely it's a good idea to go for those kind of courses, right? Okay. Yep. So yep, this is all from my side, guys. I will pass you this notebook uh, through your faculties, right? So it will be shared with you people. Let's stop sharing over here. Yes, so thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me? I'm here to address them. Do we have any questions?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you please share that yesterday's link again on our group or in this today's chat box? Because some of students cannot get link, including me. So I
Okay.
request you to
You
share
want
that link
links
again.
for the, okay, you want the links for the courses, right? The courses, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just a second. I will share that in this chat. Just a second. Give me a moment. Just a moment. Okay, so I've posted that into the chat. Any other question?
Yes, from student side, if you have any doubt, just post your question or unmute yourself and ask your doubt. Student.
Okay. No worries then.
Oh, okay, sir, no problem.
Yeah.
So, sir, it's time for a vote of thanks. So, on behalf of Samarth Group of Institutions, College of Engineering and Polytechnic, myself, Professor Shingotesen from Department of Computer Engineering, I would like to say heartily thank to Ajunet Foundation and today's dynamic resource person, Mr. Sagar sir. Sagar sir gives practical knowledge regarding programming fundamentals, especially Python programming concepts. I will give you surety, sir. Definitely, sir, it will very useful for our student. I would like to say thanks to all today's participants for their active participation. And one more, our principal, sir, administrative officer, HOD Borade, sir, and Pokarkar, sir. And also thanks to our technical team for their support. And last but not least, our motivator, Samarth Management, especially Honorable Trustee Sri Vallabhji Shalke sir and Secretary Sri Vivekji Shalke sir for granting permission for organizing such great and useful webinar. So we will meet again tomorrow for last session. Thank you once again, all of you. Stay home, stay safe.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.